Okay, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be going through the Big Six. So these are the 6 5-fret songs remaining in the series at 150% speed. This sheet has been going on for, I think, 8 years, 8.5 years now. And I don't know if I would say the end is in sight, but we are considerably close to finishing off 150% speed. Now this is 5 fret, 6 fret, there are still 9 songs left on GHTV, so I'm not going to cover them. That's best left to the people that can actually play the game half competently. So I will cover these 6 songs. One other thing, oh actually 2 other things before I continue on with these 6. Band Hero DS, I think, has something like 4 songs not done. They're not difficult, it's just I don't think they were ripped correctly. So that game technically hasn't been full game FC'd. And a big thing is that RB4 DLC apparently got ripped. I suppose that finished at some point. At least it must have finished, otherwise I don't know why the rips would have been made. But yeah, there are something like 650 songs there that haven't been done. The DLC has not been weeded, so I guess we're not really actually at the big 6, we're more at the 660. However, as far as I know, the only song there that would be that bad would be Highway to Oblivion, which probably wouldn't be done at this point either. But I can't comment on that because I don't have it, and I'm just going to ignore RB4 DLC until it gets weeded. I'm not going to be the one to do it. So if you feel like helping out, that's something you can do to be helpful for sure. I'm not going to provide a link because A, I don't know where it is, and B, I'm pretty sure that's something that gets you banned. So I'm just going to say that they're out there. Ask the right person, you might be able to find them. Other than Highway to Oblivion, maybe there is some BREs. I don't know about Hot for Teacher or something like that. So I can't comment there. Okay. The 6 songs remaining in the 150% speed series are all on Rock Band now. So yesterday Randy got Operation Ground and Pound GH3 and I got Dueling Banjos. They're done. That's the last you're going to hear about them. So everything left is now Rock Band. Specifically, there are 4 Rock Band 3 DLC songs left. That's just how brutal that is. And there's 1 Rock Band Network 1 song and 1 Rock Band Network 2 song. I'm going to go in the order of the breakdown this time. Previously, when there were 13 songs left, I went just through the games, but because there are only 3 sections and they're all pretty cut and dry, I'm just going to go from what I would consider easiest to what I would consider hardest. Not necessarily going to be a perfect breakdown. I would say the bottom 3 songs I'm pretty comfortable now. The top 3, I mean, they're harder than the bottom 3, but the order in which you could put them, it is up to you. Okay, I'm not going to say that any of these songs are impossible to do now. I may have given that idea in the past, but at this point I'm convinced they can all be done. I may not be the one that can do them. I could do half of them if I put a lot of work in, but other people could do the top 3, I'm certain of it at this point. But let's stop the preamble and let's actually look at the songs. So, track number 1, Child in Time. Now, Child in Time has the worst BRE as far as we're concerned. Bodhisattva is terrible, and at 150, it's so fast, it's not even funny. But the fact that we can bypass that BRE means that it's not really an issue. In fact, I think Randy has done Bodhisattva on a Rock Band game twice. So it doesn't matter. Child in Time is one that we can't bypass because you're not going to hit the solo on any Rock Band game. And even considering every other BRE in the series, this is the second worst, only behind Bodhisattva. Like, it's going to be a long night is bad, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as this one. Okay, But before I show you that, let's have a look at the solo. Solo 1B through to 1G. So I would say the sections of note in this song are solo 1C and solo 1E. Everything else is a little tricky, but nothing that would hold you back. You just got to pay attention and it's going to be fine. 1C is pretty horrible. And 1E is basically a crapshoot, to be honest. Let me show you them. So we start off with 1B, which is pretty comfy. And then we have 1C coming up right now. So I have a method for it. As you can see there, I'll demonstrate what that is after I play a full run through. This is 1D, pretty easy section. And then we got 1E right here. You know, everything past that in the solo is not really anything to write home about. You certainly wouldn't need a bespoke method for it. And then 1G is simple enough. You just need to not succumb to pressure. So, let me go into a bit more depth for solo 1C at least, and I'll explain what I do for 1A2. So, this is normal. I'll just do a triple strum here, one hand this, and then I'm going to tap this part. So, as you see it, a bit like opposite of Spanish fly, I'm going to tap blue, yellow, and one hand the red for these first three. And then when we get to this last one, instead of just doing this a fourth time and then seeing this orange, yellow, yellow as a separate thing, I'm going to play very deliberately, mind you, blue, yellow, green, red, orange, trip. And then I'm going to start one-handing. I mean, it's literally the same thing, but the way of looking at it is a bit different. And double strum both of these doubles and just one hand out. It's still not 100% consistent, but looking at it that way made it much more possible. Okay. You can't play this section too many times in a row, let me tell you. So that's 1C, and then 1E, not really a method, it's more just I go up into third position and strum through it. So, to use the hammer-ons here, it gets particularly awkward in those last three. But you get the idea. So it's just strumming through it. Sometimes works. Just leaving it up to chance isn't great. But yeah, mastering those two sections will allow you to get past the solo. Now, if you didn't know, the structure of this song goes: the easiest song you ever played in your life, literally, to the solo. I mean, this beginning part is about 3 minutes. The solo, the easiest song you ever played in your life for another 2.5 minutes, and then the BRE. So, let me just address these trills just before that. You would never ever miss these trills, but just being aware that there's a pretty quick one in the second set, a triple, which I like to tap. Simple as that. But let me show you the actual stuff that's worth knowing about. So before we get to the BRE, we have this chord climbing bit. which is pretty difficult. At first, I couldn't really hit it at all. Now, it's not so bad. However, under pressure, this thing becomes a lot more difficult, as you'd anticipate. Right now, we're 6.5 minutes into the song. So yeah, that pressure accumulates because you don't want to really have to hit the solo again, and you're also preparing for the BRE. But let me show you this chord bit first. I just alt strum through it, try and stay in second position as much as is possible. And eventually it becomes pretty much second nature. At least in practice. Occasionally I'll have a miss like that. Okay, this is it. This is why it's not done. So, it's bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as we may have once thought. I'm not the first person to figure this BRE out. In fact, my method probably isn't as good as Gravel's, who was the first person to even look at this section. But it is not an insurmountable obstacle. I have a breakdown of my method on this channel already, so if you care, look at that video. However, I will say since then, this section has become much more difficult to control just because of this single yellow blue here. If this note didn't exist, this song would be way more appealing to go for, seriously. The fact that they didn't put an orange on this chord in this section that you were never meant to see means that this song is much harder than it has any right to be. But anyway, I have my 3-2 method may not work for you if you don't have a 3-2 naturally. So if you have any different rake orientation and you want to try this song, you're gonna have to make your own, I'm afraid. But I will try to at least hit this to show that it's not impossible. Yeah, if I wasn't talking I would have hit it there because I hit the hard part, but anyway. Okay, you see. As I said, I've already broken this section down, so I'm not going to break it down again. But this song, although I've put it at the bottom, is one of the least appealing to go for the reasons I mentioned before, with the extremely easy verses. Though you don't have to think, it does mean that if you're just sitting there staring at the wall during the verses and choruses, it's not going to be a fun grind. And it's probably not a song you can grind without going at least a little bit loopy. I have got to the ending once yesterday because I was trying my luck, but it's not something I'm going to go for like every day rigorously. The only song I'm ever going to grind, I've ever grinded like that since coming back is Nyland, and I'm not going to do that again. So any progress from me is going to be when I feel like it. So yeah, I would say it will be done eventually, which is different to what I said before, just because the BRE is possible, clearly. Okay, that's number 6. Now number 5 is, and by the way, Child in Time, RB4 DLC. One of the 4 songs left there. Next one is Rock Band Network 2, everybody's favorite Gambit. So this is a gauntlet. But it's a gauntlet made up of about 4 different sections. I'll try to show off every single one, which I haven't done before. The first thing we got to look at is the strumming. So 2-2 would make this a lot easier. I can get it to work with a 3-2 though, and I'll show you that now. 2-2 is self-explanatory. Excuse me. I only missed there because I didn't rake. So to break this down a bit, I'm doing a down, up to hit these first bits. And then I'm doing I think. Let me just double check. Okay, it's 11 rakes. I can count. So yeah, 11. Except the last one where I do 10. Because when I'm doing 11 rakes, that one hammer-on is eating at least one strum. And because the hammer-on is much further down the line, after this blue on the last one, I gotta just end it short, but that's fine. That raking section happens twice. The next section we got to look at, in fact most of the things in this song repeat just one time. Same is true for verse 2. Verse 2 So we got this easy trill here, nothing really to talk about there, but we got this. So that's a 6 and a 4. Terrible orientation for a 3-2. With a 2-2 it's pretty easy. So I've been having some bad luck with this as of late. But what I'd try to do here is I'd sort of try and do it as 3 rakes on the yellow and 1 on the red, but that is a mid-rake fret transition there, and once again this happens after every single ladder transition too. We've got verse 2B and melody 2A, which is, we have 2 ladder transitions here. The first one is our easier one. So if I use my head, I'll be able to prove that this is a bit easier. And that's really why that song is hard, that specific transition. So, to go into a bit more depth, using all the hammer-ons here, this is a triple strum and then to an elbow, okay? So I'm gonna hit da-da-da, down, up, down, elbow, and just flail. I'm not gonna play these ladders accurately. I don't think you should, unless you're particularly good at this motion. So it's just a flail, make sure you hit all the notes, and then I guess teleport back, but the teleport back isn't terrible. This first one ends with 4 strums, and with my 3-2 rake I just down rake every single one of these 3 strums in the yellow section. And this is the only part of the song where a 3-2 rake orientation is better. So with a 2-2 you could get around this, I'm certain, or you could just standard it, but it's perfect doing a down rake, or it's the best you're gonna get, like outside of elbow raking. It's just 1 down rake, so I can, as quickly as I can, get my hand up here and straight back down to another rake. But to talk about what I was going to talk about, there's 4 strums here, so I'm just going to do a quick diddle-da-da, a bit faster than it should be, and then just rake every single one. And for this second ladder, I tend to slide it as opposed to mash it, because that's just one motion, you know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is really, really difficult. And there are 2 of these in this song. Okay, once we're past that, we've got this at the end of each melody A section. and they're forced differently each time, but I play them both the same. This first one is less forced, just one hammer on. I really don't know why, but I just literally strum through it. And then as far as this last mini trill is concerned, I'm in 3rd position for that. And then immediately after this it goes back into strumming, so you gotta remember that too. As far as the ladders are concerned, you've got the easier one 3 times, and that's the 1st, 4th and 5th time you have that transition. And then the 2 yellow to ladder transitions, numbers 2 and 3. However, between 2 and 3 there's a lot of song. So we've got 2 of the transitions in the first minute, then we got to wait basically another minute and 20 or something, and then we'll have the 3 last ladder transitions. Okay, I've covered basically everything in the song except for the guitar solo sections. So these ones, they're not just trills. The pattern that you're tapping is trills, but we got these notes in between that make it a bit awkward. So let me just show you how I do it. May not be the best, probably isn't the best, but it's something that works decently for me, well enough to get me past this section at least once anyway in a run. So tap, trill. I'm tapping this last red. I don't know if I'm tapping this yellow or not, doesn't really matter, but elbow and then elbow the green, tap the red, and then do the trip up, so like that, hopefully you can see that. And then I'm putting my finger on the blue for this strum and elbow strumming it, and then going into the trill. And then for that trill, I'm actually going to play them as zigs because it makes this transition out easy. So I'm going to do diddle 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 diddle, and then using my fretting hand, I'm going to be holding red and elbow strum it. This orange and blue, I'm just going to do a triangle at the top, and then that's basically all the terrible stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory past that. There's a slide here, just a slide down to green. But then it's just a trill. And although the sort of, I don't know how you call it, the order of the trill changes, you just play it exactly the same. So hopefully I can demonstrate this, if my elbow will work, which it might not, because I'm wearing a jacket. So yeah, probably the main key with this guitar solo section is making sure I don't elbow strum this blue too early, because I'm pretty sure the position of this blue changes throughout each cycle. So I got to keep an eye out there. Alright, I don't really know what's going on here. I blame it on not being warmed up. But trust me, that once that method becomes decent muscle memory, it's not terrible. As I say, the section is just difficult though, and that's exactly why these songs aren't done, because though there are workarounds, it doesn't mean that the sections aren't difficult. So, everything I showed you is in the first half of the song, more or less. But everything from this point you've already seen before. So, melody 3A, it's what I showed you before. Well, I guess the difference is that this isn't forced the same. So we got all hammer-ons here. And by the way, for those like doublets down, I would strum a bit faster. Pre-verse is what I showed you before, it's just the same thing twice in a row. Verse 3A, 3B, it's the trills and the strum. Which, I mean, the strum is at the end of 3A, I'm not going to show the whole thing. Guitar solo 2 is the same as guitar solo 1, more or less. And then outro is just one measure. So yeah, a lot to talk about in Gambit. But it's a case of just getting these sections good enough so that you can hit them all twice in a run. The only thing that shows up 3 times is the easier letter transition, and I guess you could say that the guitar solo section shows up, you know, 8 times, but that's just cycles. Alright, so that's number 5, Gambit. Number 4, a slight amplification. This is the last song for Rock Band Network 1. So yes, even now, the top 3 is all Rock Band 3 DLC. Those 3 songs are unbelievable. But ASA, for the time being, it's particularly difficult. The thing is with this one, is that the first half of the song, the first 50, I guess 55% maybe, is insane. But then after that it's just a don't get first. So the main thing in the first half of this song is the riff. There's not really anything else. I suppose the very beginning, but that's not terrible. The problem with this first half is just the riff. So let me just play the first half to show you how much of this riff there is. So I think you've got to hit that riff 10 times. Hitting it once is not easy, and I'll explain why after I do this half run. So that's the end of the riffs there, at the 35% mark. However, you already know that that isn't exactly what's hard about the song. I mean, it's part of what's hard about it, but it's not the only thing. Okay, before we talk about the solo, let's have a close look at this riff. So, they're all exactly the same. And, well, not all exactly the same. The last, like, measure of each riff, it alternates between the chords and this quad bit, but they're easy. So the majority of the riff is always the same. So I wouldn't say this first bit is why it's hard. It looks stupid, obviously, but yeah, I feel it's kind of natural. So you can anchor green, and you kind of anchor yellow here, maybe. I don't know. My fingers just kind of do it. Oh, right, nice. You want to prove me wrong? So, what are my fingers doing there? I'm not really anchoring, I don't think. So basically, instead of it being da what I'm gonna do is da. So 3 notes in second position as opposed to just 2 and then moving back down here. And I'm just going to slide and split the difference for this last bit. And that feels kind of natural. Okay, that is why this is hard. Screw this. So you're talking about really strumming a trill or strums, and then this, whatever the hell it is. This is not a pattern you see like ever. I don't know if this pattern even exists outside of this song. But you gotta go da, and then this, And then obviously it'll end on an up strum and you do this chord bit 3 times, which isn't terrible, but you can fall a note behind here so easily. The only couple of things I've found that sort of help is not anchoring this trill and making sure to anchor, or should I say accent, this strum here, because that's a down. And there's 8 strums and then da-da, which is your 9th and 10th, but that's the start of the measure, and that's when you get into your chord bit. I can't be of too much use here because it's just genuinely, I find it difficult. So the main thing really is the trill though. And you gotta hit this thing 10 times in a row, you know. It sucks, right? But if it was just the riff, I would have this would be done, no doubt. The song, it would have definitely made it into like the top 50, I would have thought, but it would be done. But of course, we all know why this song is doubly bad, and that's solo 1. So I'll just play it through to begin with. I don't know what it is about this beginning bit. I would like to hit it, but I guess that's not going to happen, so screw it. So that is really something. There's one obviously terrible part, but there are a few really bad parts that you wouldn't really think should be that bad. One of them is this beginning. Maybe this is just me, but it's not really the triplets. For some reason this thing, I keep missing, I think, this second red in it, because I just do a triplet as opposed to a zig. It's a bit weird coming out of that. Plus it's a Spock, I mean, that goes without saying. Like genuinely, I find this difficult enough to point out, and it's not that bad. Like, my gosh, I don't know what's going on right now. What the hell? Okay, clearly it doesn't want to work. But yeah, you got that, and then you got this tapping bit, which is easy. Don't go anything there. Just use the hammer-ons here, but then we got this. And this thing, I think, is well over 20 notes per second strumming at the beginning with this terrible, terrible pattern. Another Spock with a yellow at the beginning, which kind of makes it even worse because you got to do this. And you got to be strumming so fast for it at the same time. And then whatever this is afterwards, you know, it's just half zigs, a chimney, another half zig. Just bizarre. But really, it's the beginning of this that is the killer. and then you got this, not this, this, right? For the longest time, this was probably as bad as anything else in the solo, and it doesn't look easy, but you wouldn't have thought this was like a deal breaker. I think I might have figured it out though, so let me show you. And when I say figured it out, I mean I can hit it enough. It's not a complete, just lucky dip. So there are 6 total double strums in here, however I strum 7 times. The beginning is as normal, but this blue here, this blue hammer-on, I'm going to strum that too, and I'm going to strum it really, really early. And I'm going to do 3 strums there. And this double orange at the top I'm going to strum early too. So you've got to be kind of, how would you call it, counterintuitive with this one. Okay, you see? It's not a terrible way to do it. This used to be a lot worse. Okay, so the whole thing again, just for a laugh. See if I can hit this beginning part, because I've yet to hit it. I've hit the worst part, but I can't at the beginning. There you go, me. And of course that wouldn't work after I hit it like 6 times in a row. Okay, so that's the solo. It's ridiculous, and you already knew that. But there are ways to approach it. You gotta be very, very, very fast with the beginning of that strumming bit, and just you gotta make sure you do this first, like 5 notes as fast as you possibly can, and then if your streak still remaining, you can pretty much try to flail through it and get through it. But I don't need to really explain why it's such a massive issue that we have that in horrible riff 10 times followed by this solo. Like, to hit the full solo is it's like 1 in 50 maybe for me, and I've looked at this section quite a bit. To hit all the riffs, I've never done it and you would obviously try to do that in a run anyway. Put them together, you know, you got a once in a lifetime FC here. Some people are better at all strums, like Jarvis, so he would be my personal candidate for going for this, but who knows. We got the rest of the song too. There's nothing terrible here. The worst thing is solo 2, but that's just the beginning. You gotta not be unlucky, and I haven't broken down solo 2, but I will show them. So immediately after the solo, we've got this kind of easy riff with a few all strums bits. I can suggest to start on up strums for these offbeat bits, like here, and also don't speak through them. That's awkward, but nothing compared to the rest of the song really. That is basically the last truly difficult part of the song right there. So let's just have a closer look. This transition in is not fun. I would probably suggest playing this orange as a orange blue and just doing like a mini trill, so, and then it's just quints. And then there's this. I haven't looked at this in detail, but we've got, what, 5 double strums here, and it doesn't end on a hammer-on. We've got a yellow strum to a green strum. So what you could do is rake through it and try and connect the yellow to the green in a rake. That can work. It's very risky though. You could try and stop short. And that seems to be the best for me. But I'm just going to go ahead and guess that there's going to be a much more consistent way to do this. Like that'll probably be a better way to do it. 4 double strums and then use the hammer-ons for the last one to not overstrum. But yeah, I'm not going to dive too much into solo 2 because, as I say, I haven't looked at it. We got this riff, kind of tricky, and this is where the pressure will come in if you are on an FC. Make sure your fingers don't dodgy these chords up. Nothing to say there really. Then we got this. More offbeat beginnings. I'd probably just start all this on downs though. And then after that, it's just a case of not throwing it away in the last chorus, which I would hope no one would ever do. I think that's all I need to say about the slight amplification. The difficulty is the first 55%, and not throwing it away in the next 10%. The last 30% of the song you wouldn't ever want to miss. But luckily the song isn't that long. This and Gambit, and I guess Pulse, are relatively short compared to the other three, so. Okay, so that's the bottom three. Those three I could foreseeably, do at some point ever. These top three though, I don't think so. So let's have a look at Pulse, which should be really quick to show off, you'll be glad. Pulse of the Maggots is infamous. You've got the main solo and the ending solo. Just how would you approach something like this, Just wow, Slowing it down, I guess, getting it to be muscle memory would be one thing. A lot of rake usage, I would guess, would be helpful here. The main solo, it's probably just the section guitar solo that is the major issue here. Guitar solo A, you can rake through that. You're going to want to throw a few taps in here, and there are a few random strums. Then you've got an orange wall, and the very, very end of guitar solo C is really awkward too. But it's one of those where I think your hands will just do it if you sort of strum through it. And we're looking at 1 minute 20 into the song, we got this solo. And if you get past that, we obviously have the outro solo too, which may be the the worst of all of them. But I've looked at this section a little bit, and I've obviously never hit it. But there are a few standout points I think make this particularly bad. We've got this here, this triangle. Getting this second yellow in there, it's not too easy. We've got these reds. Once again, these triangles that go back up. If they just went down, this would be so much easier. And then this, one-handing this, it's a complete mess. And need I mention all of the random strums in there? I think raking through maybe the first 25% and strumming through the rest is maybe the best way to do it. But it's hard to even get a decent run on this. See? Strumming through seems to work okay. The two-part Tech FC, I guess you could say. But let's not forget, to even attempt this solo in a run, you have to FC the main solo. So, yeah, good luck with that. If someone were excellent at the main solo, this could happen, definitely. And there are people better than me at tackling sections like that. So it's a short song, it's the shortest song left. It's pretty braggadocious if you do FC it, being able to say you FC'd Pulse 150, considering most people are happy with a 100% speed. So I think this one may not get done soon, but if someone put the time in and really analysed this section, these sections, it could be done. I don't think there's anything in there that's physically impossible. As you can see with the outro solo, I hit both sides there, one-handed. Beginning of guitar solo, regular. It's maybe a bit more tricky, a few more gaps in the strums. But as I say, if you maybe imported a 150% speed chart, then you could slow it down. That would be the best bet for a song like this, I would say. But the hardest sections in 150 are these solos. Probably outro solo or guitar solo. They're the hardest sections. But because Pulse of the Maggots is literally pretty much just those two sections, maybe the chorus sections if you want to count them, I've put it below the two Dragonforce songs. The order of which I've put as OGAP is easier. Probably is, I think. I played a run of both of these, I would say OGAP's easier. However, OGAP does require some creative methods. I'm not going to play a full run of this song, I'm just going to try to extrapolate the absolute worst of it. And I'm going to say, before starting analysing both of these songs, there is 20 notes per second strumming throughout both of them. So, Flames is worse in that regard, the patterns are more difficult and it's more forced. But, unless you're a Jeff style or a Muck style player, you want to have a rake, a 2-2 rake for these songs, at the very least. Okay, OGAP. First thing we've got is Guitar Solo 1. Insanely fast trill, but you can alt tap it and pretty much just destroy the top of the frets and try to get that grace note out. It's the first challenge you have in this song. I think people that are going for this will probably be pretty comfy with it, to be honest. Nothing absolutely ridiculous until... oh yeah, Guitar Solo 3. I forgot about this section. Nothing ridiculous until the big solo. So, a few things to point out there. The very beginning is quick, but this pattern's pretty easy for people that can tap. So, all you do here is just do a quad and a tap a red, yellow triangle. So, if I actually hit the buttons. And then all that stuff after is just like quads. I'm playing it pretty uncleanly, but you could master it even better than that. There is a transition into it, but it's just a teleport. Okay. Not a major issue, I wouldn't have thought. It's mostly just the transition though. Then we got this, which I don't know which methods people use for this. The ones I could think of are literally doing your sort of skip tapping, is that what it is? Where you would go... you'd almost do like triplets, but instead you're leaving a tiny gap between each one. I can't really demonstrate it, because it's not a skill I've ever practiced. But I think you can tell what I'm doing here, hopefully. Otherwise, slide, something like that. Or slide spamming. But you're not going to alt tap it. I wouldn't have thought. Some people probably could. But to just pull that off in mid-run, I don't believe it. And obviously we've got the same thing in Guitar Solo 4C. Just doesn't bounce between 4 frets. 4D. Tricky but very learnable, right? Like, that was terrible. But it nearly hit, you know? But if you learn that properly, I can't imagine 4D would be bad, it'd be more just pressure. Probably the worst strumming bit follows this, which is bridge D. I've never really looked at this and found a good way to hit it. Just blind luck, pretty much. So how could you hit something like this? Right after you've FC'd solo 4, and this is basically in don't donk it territory. Probably not going to use the hammer-ons. Probably going to have practiced this section 1,000 times until you've got some sort of muscle memory with raking, I would guess. But I can't offer any advice there. Solo 5. This is one you can learn pretty easily. Imagine if this was the only solo in a song. It's not going to be undone for long. Okay, there was one bit I missed there, but if you tapped that, that would be okay. Last thing to show off is the ending, which I think is easier than GH3's version, so... the transition isn't quite as rough. Maybe I'll demonstrate that a bit better than that. So that's cool, just pure choke territory. So looking at this song, it's not just solo 4, right? As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of strumming. But most of the sections in this song are very approachable, if tricky. So if you've got a way of hitting those big castles or trills in solo 4, the rest of it I think will be able to come to you if you've got the strum bar for it, or the speed for it. Stringing everything together in one 5-minute run is obviously a big ask, which is why I've put it above Pulse. To be honest, I could see this being done before Pulse of the Maggots. Maybe I should change that order. But it's just how daunting it is, you know. OGAP 150, RB3 chart, infamous be like the hardest, one of the hardest charts ever made, harder than Flames at regular speed anyway on Rock Band. But yeah, it's like any Dragon Force song. You play it loads of times, you get better and better at this sort of tricky stuff, and then you end up with a couple of choice sections that you need to really try for. I know Alec was trying this before, I'm pretty sure he was anyway. Nados has said he might try it too. So people are looking at this song. I'd love to see it done, obviously. Same can't be said for Flames though, which I had as number 1. I think I'd still keep it as number 1, having played a run of it. You know, it's Pulse is either the hardest or it's below both of these. I can't tell. That song, I don't think it's impossible, but it's ridiculous. Through the Fire and Flames. Now, I could play nearly any section in the song and show you something that's difficult, but I'll show you the stuff that's kinda silly. Little mini trill there, that's just sort of a teaser. Bridge 1 actually is pretty easy in this chart. Pre-chorus 2B is the first really stupid thing though. Ridiculous, right? Just a very fast transition. Next thing, I'm going to show you Interlude B through the solo. One part there sticks out like a sore thumb, solo C, but there are so many other difficult parts here too. Guitar, well, interlude B has that very strange thing at the end, but this almost becomes more of a warning than anything else compared to the sections that come after it. So you could method this, but it is a mess for all intents and purposes. I don't know what they were thinking charting this like this. You could moose it too. There's just one random strum in there. Just gotta get your hand back there. Guitar break has the triplet. Guitar solo A has the blue wall. Very awkward. No oranges here in this short part. And then obviously, yeah, solo C is where the money is, I would say. Doesn't look as bad as it used to, but this is still a big ass to do on top of everything else. Just rake through it and one-hand it, I guess. I don't think you're going to be double strumming this. Then you've got the very strange stuff that's going on in Twin, like this quad. Twin solo B is not that bad though. Just kind of a chill at the end. Choke spots. Red Snake isn't really one, but obviously you're going to want a 2-2 for something like this. Then the infamous trill at the end. To do that, I would have thought you probably just one-hand the first 3 and then start doing this method. But, you know, one-handing a full triplet on top of a red, not so easy. Unless you want to elbow strum some notes before it. That's Flames. I feel like I don't really have to say much about Flames. I've shown you the hardest sections. You already know doing all this stuff in one run is going to be as hard as doing all this stuff in OGAP. But the sections themselves are a bit harder, I think. Solo C is harder than anything in OGAP, definitely. So those are the 6 songs that we have left. One question is, what are we going to do about the Rock Band 4 versions of these Dragon Force songs? Are we going to put them as a different FC? Probably going to have to, actually, because the charts are pretty notably different. At least Flames is, Solo C is Trills. So that could be an issue on top of Highway to Oblivion, which sucks. Normally with this sheet I've just discounted songs that have totally negligible version differences, which happens all the time, like with imports on Guitar Hero or lane additions to Rock Band charts, which sometimes changes the number of notes. Stuff like this though, it's kind of an obvious change that changes the difficulty of the song. I would say we'll just forget about them for now. I would prefer these ones to be done. But chances are we're going to have those versions also on the street eventually in the Rock Band 4 section, which is something I only really thought about when I was playing through these right now. But yeah, for now we've got these 6. I think I've talked too long because I'm running out of things to say. So let's just end it. Hopefully there was some new insight into these songs. If not, and you've watched it anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. But I'll just end it here. So bye bye.